Hello and welcome back to the Law Lab. Here we dissect and unpack everything legal. My name is Rhysa Iris Ewonia, and today I'll be taking you through leases, but we'll be focusing specifically on the nature of a lease, its creation, the types, and how it can be transferred. So what is a lease? A lease is an agreement to use another person's land, usually for a specific time, in return for the payment of rent. So a lease is a contract that one person has with the other person to use the land for a specific duration for the payment of rent. The payment of rent is a necessary factor for the creation of leases, and also it must be for a specific duration. Thus, if you use someone's land and we cannot determine how long or how short you use the land, it cannot possibly be a lease because the duration of the agreement is a key factor of what a lease is all about. Section 6 of the Land Act 2020 Act 1036 defines a lease to be A. An interest in land for a duration which is certain or capable of being ascertained, or B. It arises when a person who holds an allodial title, customary law freehold, common law freehold, or usufructuary interest conveys it to another person an interest in land for a specified time subject to terms and conditions. And it may, in the case of a sublease of an assignment, arise when the holder of a leasehold interest grants a sublease out of that interest or assigns that interest and does not exhaust the interest of the grantor in the land. This definition is so packed that if you read it like this, you will not really get it. So let's break it down for everybody to understand what it means. A lease is first of all an interest in land. You must remember that it's an interest, not a right in land. And by virtue of the fact that it's an interest, it also states that it's for a duration which is certain or capable of being ascertained. So if you pick the leasehold documents or the transaction, you should be able to see for how long the person is going to use the land and for how long that interest is supposed to survive. Even if you do not see clearly, you should be capable of ascertaining it. That if you put two and two together, you should be able to determine how long or how short the leasehold interest is supposed to survive. Also, it can be created by a holder of an allodial title, which could be the state, the stool, the king, clan, or family, or even an individual, or a customary law freeholder or a common law freeholder, or a usufructuary interest holder. Do not forget that I stated that all the freehold interests have been prescribed as of the 22nd day of August 1969. But if there are people who actually hold these interests, they can also create a leasehold interest, or even a usufructuary interest holder can also create a leasehold interest. And it's subject to the terms and conditions. Terms and conditions is a necessary factor of what a lease is all about. Because, mind you, even though the person has created the interest to you, the land will revert back to the person when the duration expires. So, by virtue of the fact that it reverts back to him, naturally, the holder of the land will want to put terms and conditions in the agreement so that you not use the land in any way that will be detrimental to himself and his land. So terms and conditions are necessary factors of leasehold. And also it can either be created by a sublease or an assignment. I'll explain it in our subsequent videos what these are. But for now, you should understand that leasehold, they are interest in land and it's for a particular duration. And also, it is subject to terms and conditions. That is all you have to understand in relation to the definition of leases. There are key features of a lease, which is one, the payment of rent. I've stated earlier that you must pay rent for a lease because it's not free. No one is going to give you land like that for free, unless maybe it's a gift. But a leasehold interest is not a gift. It's an interest that you create subject to terms and conditions. And the rent and its payment to the owner is a particular condition that must necessarily be fulfilled. The case of Ashburn-Ansalt versus Arnold stated that it is necessary for a lessee to pay rent to the lessor. But in the case of Adomako versus Enterprise Insurance Company Limited and Consortium House Limited, It was stated that the payment of rent can also be in the form of transfer of shares in the company. So you do not necessarily have to give money to the lessor. You can also decide to transfer your shares in a company to the lessor, which is also a part of paying of your rent. Another key feature of a lease is that it must be for a definite period. I emphasize on this in the definition under Section 6 of Act 1036, that you should be able to ascertain the duration of the lease, or the duration should be certain. So it is necessary that the lease must be for a definite period. It must have a beginning date and an end date. Even though a lease may have the beginning date and an end date, it can also be terminated even before the end date occurs. And that could be as a result of several factors which should be explained earlier. Another key feature of a lease is that the lessee must have exclusive possession of the property. This means that a person on land who is not entitled to exclusive possession will not be a lessee, but rather a licensee. So if you are being rented a land or a property or maybe a house, you should be able to use the house in a way that will benefit you. But do not forget that leases come with terms and conditions. So it will be subject to those terms and conditions. The main distinction between leases and licensees is that the concept of exclusive possession, because typically licensees do not have exclusive possession over the property, as was stated in the case of Street and Mount Board. An exclusive possession connotes that generally the lessee has been given general control over the property. So if you do not have general control over the property, don't expect it to be a landlord-tenant relationship or a leasehold relationship. However, if the landlord or the lessor or the grantor retains keys to the premises, doesn't necessarily mean that you do not have exclusive possession. It will depend on the circumstances before we determine whether you're a lessor, you're a lessee or a licensee, as is stated in the case of Aslan and Murphy. There are, however, instances where a person may have exclusive possession of a property, but is not necessarily a lessee. The person is a licensee. It could either be by an act of generosity, charity, or friendship. So if the lessor decides to give you exclusive possession, by virtue of the nature of relationship you have, it does not necessarily mean that you are in a leasehold or you are in a landlord-tenant relationship, but you're a licensee. And that was in the case of Gray and Taylor. If you're also a service occupancia and you have a duty post accommodation, it is not a leasehold interest. You're a licensee, as was in the case of Ampoma and VRA. And if you had occupancy prior to the completion of a contract for sale, it's also not a lessee or landlord-tenant relationship, but you are rather a licensee. Leases can be created in many ways. It can be created in writing, where a person conveys his interest from one person to the other. So if you enter into an agreement that you want to convey your interest in land to another person through a lease can also be created. Oral leases can also take place, but by virtue of Section 36 of the Land Act, Act 1036, a lease that takes effect in possession of a term, it does not exceed 3 years, it must not necessarily be in writing. So these leases can be oral and it can be created. However, for transactions in relation to land, it is preferred for the transaction to be in writing, because Section 32 of the Land Act 2020 Act 1030 says that a holder of an interest in land may, by an instrument, transfer that interest or right to any other person with or without consideration. So this provision is the one that supports the notion that an interest in land can be transferred in writing and it can be with or without consideration. By virtue of the fact that the provision states expressly that for leases that exceed 3 years, it must necessarily be in writing, some people tend to take advantage of it and create oral leases where they will not reduce it into writing, and they will claim that a lease has not been created, so the person who gave them money cannot enforce it, nor can the person take the land or their money back. But to tackle this particular issue, the Supreme Court, in the case of Cote and Colete, brought about the doctrine of part performance, which says that the requirements for an act of part performance in equity, which are as follows. There are certain requirements that must be met for the doctrine of part performance to exist. These are that 1, The act must be referable to the contract alleged and no other title. B. It must be such as to render it a fraud in the defendant to take advantage of it not being in writing. C. The contract in its own nature must be enforceable by the court. And D. There must be proper parole evidence of the contract. This was also emphasized in the case of Tahiru and Miracle. So, even if you decide not to create a document in writing evidencing that you have created a lease, based on these conditions, the Supreme Court can accept that a lease has been created and enforce it against you. There are many who think that an agreement for a lease is also the same as a lease because to them, if you have entered into an agreement that you want to transfer a property with someone, it means that you have transferred the property to the person. It is a bit absurd, but there are certain situations where it can be enforced. So the court has stated that where an agreement for a lease which contains all the essential features of a lease is not being performed by one of the parties, the court may order specific performance in appropriate cases. So this is not a common law thing, it's more of an equitable discretion that the court has. And it's based on the equitable maxim that equity sees as done, which ought to have been done. So even if you have made an agreement in writing that we are going to contract and have a lease created, but in the event of anything, you did not create that lease, the court will still enforce the agreements for a lease, and it must contain certain key features before it will be enforced. By virtue of Section 32 of the Land Act, the agreement must necessarily be in writing. And Section 34 and 35 of Act 1036 have also stated that the agreement must include the names of the parties, the adequate description of the property, the term granted, rent payable, and any special covenants that must relate. And this has been highlighted in the case of Saki and Eshon. But it's always important to remember that agreement for a lease is not the same as a lease, because an agreement for a lease does not confer any legal title in the supposed lessee. Specific performance that the court will grant is a discretionary remedy which arises out of equity. So an agreement for a lease can never be the same as a lease. If you want to rent your property to someone, or if you want a property to be rented to you, always make sure that you have this leasehold agreement. Don't go and create an agreement for a lease thinking that it's the same as a lease. They are two separate things, but the court may enforce the agreement if it finds it just and equitable to do so. There are many types of leases, and this could be leases for a fixed period, where the duration of the lease is determinable and is absolute, or reversionary leases, which is usually a fixed period lease but which takes effect at a future date. It may be granted to take effect after the expiration of an existing lease. Or equitable leases, which are leases that take effect in equity when there is past performance and the court will order specific performance of the agreement, as discussed earlier. A lease can also be concurrent, which is usually an assignment of the reversion, and it is granted where there is already an existing lease, but the lessor, as a result of debt or some allied issues, grants a concurrent lease so that a new lessee will be entitled to rent accruing from the original lessee. Leases could also be periodic or periodic tenancies. It is periodic when it automatically renews itself at the end of each period. So maybe you enter an agreement that the leasehold interest should be for 5 years, but on the expiration of the 5 years, it must renew, then it's a periodic tenancy. The duration is indefinite because it renews from time to time, but it can be terminated at any time. Another type of leases that you should know is the tenancy at will and tenancy at sufferance. What is a tenancy at will? A tenancy at will is the tenancy that is subject to the will of the landlord. Where the lease has expired but the tenant continues to stay on the premises with the consent of the landlord, then it's a tenancy at will. It is important that the lessee must necessarily have the consent of the landlord, because if he doesn't have it, then it's a tenancy at sufferance. There's no notice that is needed here, but it can come to an end when the landlord takes steps to terminate it. The duration is uncertain and the tenant has no security of tenure. So tenancy as sufferance, on the other hand, is when the person occupies the land without the consent of the landlord or with the dissent of the landlord. The landlord didn't give you his consent, or he's forcing you to leave but you do not want to leave. Then you have a tenancy as sufferance. Leases can be transferred in many ways. It can be transferred either through a sublease or an assignment. A sublease is when a lessee grants an interest to another person for a term shorter than his own to a third party. So maybe you have a leasehold interest for 50 years, and in the fifth year, you created a lease with Akosia, a third party, for 15 years. You realize that Akosia's interest in the land is lesser than your own because yours is for 50 years and Akosia's own is for 15 years. So that is what a sublease is. And the sublease becomes a tenant of the lessee, but there has no tenure relationship with the head lessor. When a sublease is created, there are three people now involved, which is the head lessor, the original lessee who becomes the lessee, who becomes the lessor in relation to the sub-lessee, and the sub-lessee. In the case of P.Y. Atta and Sons Limited versus Kingsman Enterprises Limited, it was stated that if a person purports to grant a sublease, which in effect disposes of the lessee's whole interest in the property, the law sees it as an assignment and not a sublessee or a sublease. Because as I said earlier, the sublease, your term should necessarily be shorter, or the third party's term should necessarily be shorter than you, the original lessee. An assignment, on the other hand, is when the lessee transfers the residue of his interest in either part or the whole of the property to a third party. So if you have a lease of a duration of 50 years and you have enjoyed the property for 25 years, and the remaining 25 years you grant it to another person, you have not created a sublease, but you have made an assignment. So you become an assignor and the third person become the assignee. The new party will then step into the shoes of the lessee, and any other conditions that the lessee will have will relate to the new party, who in this case will be the assignee. By way of recap, I made mention of what a lease is and I talked about how it can be created. I also made reference to the types of leases we have, and I also spoke about subleases and assignment. In our subsequent videos, I will expand more about leases for you to understand better about it. Thank you for joining us today in this wonderful session. It has been lovely to have you here. And do not forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos to your friends and your peers for them to understand the nature and types of leases we have in Ghana. Thank you once again.